everybody, welcome today. I'm Joel Silverman. This is Brad Ouldhouse. We're here today to kick off the 2020 season of our video blog. This is coming together because of Silverman Law Office, SocialFlixx, and RC3 Coaching and Consulting. Last year was amazing. I gotta say, we had an unbelievable lineup of guests for what I thought was just a great first season. I learned an immense amount. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
You are still in the infancy stage of your business. You've had some ups and downs. I've had ups and downs. We've all had ups and downs in our businesses, right? What were some of the things that maybe you took away from last year from some of the great interviews we had?
Boy, that's a great first question. Holy moly. I mean, where do you start, right?
Well,
I mean,
and by the way, Brad and I, this is just going to be us talking about last season and what we're looking forward to in this season that really just kind of changed our worlds last year a little bit and what we got to learn from some of these great interviews.
absolutely. No, it's, you know, I've said before on my personal channels, if anybody follows me on Instagram, you know, these interviews, I get to learn by osmosis. You know, I might be dialing in the cameras and getting you guys mic'd up and ready to go, but once the interviews start going, I'm in learning mode. And, you know, I also have an advantage because I also edit them. And in editing, I get to catch a few things that I didn't catch in real life. And, you know, moments like, you know, Clint Lohman and you were laughing just before we started, but that energy carried all the way through. And what I took from him was just his absolute innate ability to just find a problem and find a solution for it. You know, I mean, that's really, really stuck with me, just being able to, you know, look at a situation that he might not even have a whole lot of knowledge about. You know, he saw something that annoyed him in his friend's truck one day when he took him out to a fracking site. Next thing you know, he's out there creating a newer, better machine that's quieter and cleaner. Like, that's just one of 29 stories that we shot last year that that really resonate. And, you know, like you said, the ups and downs and the hard times, it's really, you know, entrepreneurship can tend to feel very lonely at times. And, you know, especially when there's those down moments when we're like, oh man, I really screwed up, or things aren't going as well as we were hoping. And knowing that the 29 guests that we've had so far on this show and podcast, that all of them have gone through it. And that really also has helped me, knowing that, okay, my problems are my own, but I'm also not the first to make them. And it's really incredible to gather that information from them.
Well, in our interview with Andrew Hurlbert, he talked about mentorship, right?
Yes, big time.
I know you and I meet every couple of weeks about your business to work through some of your issues, to set goals and standards. How has that helped you change your business? Because your first couple of years, you and I only worked together as, you know, I was your client, right? How has that helped you kind of see things that maybe you wouldn't have seen otherwise?
No, mentorship is crucial to any business. I mean, we've heard from others, not just myself, of course, that, you know, go further faster with somebody that's been there before. And, you know, obviously the information that you pass to me is incredibly crucial in that manner. And, you know, you help me see things that I might not see it because I've got the blinders on, so to speak, right? So, you know, mentorship is absolutely crucial, and you know, aligning yourself with somebody that has the same drive to grow their own business as well, and to help you along the way. And that's I can't speak to it enough. Like it's really been incredible that way.
And I would second that. I know for me, it's been huge to have other business folks as mentors, but to also help somebody else to remind me of the basics that I'm missing within my own business. as well as find people who've been there, done that, to stretch me outside of my comfort zone where I'm headed.
Right.
You know, we had a really tough beginning of 2019. For a lot of people who don't know it, we actually had our worst 4 months financially in the history of our business in 8 years. And it was because we got away from basics.
Right.
Once we got back to the financial basics, we got back to what are our key performance indicators, we were able to turn it around very quickly, but we weren't able to do that without getting back to basics.
Right.
Well, I'd like to throw out a question here. You and I have both gone through some hiring difficulties in the last year. I hired someone, I've hired several people who weren't the right fit, and we've gone through a big learning process of our hiring process, but I even hired somebody too soon, which put a financial strain on the business, held us back because we put too much of that financial strain on in one area, which meant we had to pull resources from another area. What about in your world? I know you've gone through that as well. You know, you're smaller, so if somebody's out there as just a solopreneur and they're trying to hire their first person, what's kind of a good learning lesson you had?
Number one, it must make sense with the numbers. Number one, look at your numbers, be inside of those numbers every day. And if you can't justify that hire financially right off the get, then you're not in a spot where you're ready to hire. You're just not. That comes from experience. I felt like things were on an upward growth at one point last year, especially the busiest I'd ever been. I definitely needed some help, and I took on a couple of people, and I didn't necessarily run the numbers the way I should have, and I definitely didn't pay attention as we were going along. Not only did I bring a staff on, but I kept working in the business instead of working on the business. And when the president and CEO of a company is not out selling and he's still in the factory putting together the widgets, there's a problem. So that basically towards the end of the year, we had to have a course correction, and with course correction came just the reality of paying attention to the numbers and making sure that not only the IRS is getting paid, but the taxes and payroll and all that. And that, I remember when I was trying to hire somebody for the very first time, I just kind of did it the wrong way. So that's probably why my answer is so strict and direct and to the point. But so number one is the numbers, make sure it makes sense financially. But number two, are they a good fit? And I'm actually blessed. I feel like the people that I did have on my staff at one point were very great people. I learned a lot about myself in terms of, if and when this company is healthy enough to sustain a staff once more, which is my goal, I know I've got a decent skill set where I know what to look for in people. Sometimes those people are in the wrong seats. You move them around so that they're in the right seat. But yeah, if you're a solo entrepreneur and you're looking to make that first hire, number one, make sure that the numbers make sense, and not just for this month, but it makes sense 6 months down the road, makes sense 12 months down the road. Do you have enough income coming in guaranteed in the bank for the next 6 to 12, 18, 24? What does that look like? Because I can tell you, it's not a great feeling when you have to walk into your office and lay people off.
Yeah, in that last step, you're a people person. You're a people
100%.
pleaser.
100%.
That's hard, isn't it?
It's massively hard. It creates a blind spot.
It's a gut check.
It really is. And it's, because I've been that employee too, right? Like I've been that employee in a company where they've had to let us go for, financial reasons, no fault of my own. And, the last time it happened to me, I packed up my box and brought it out to my car, and I said, this is the last time I'll ever put my paycheck in the hands of somebody other than myself. And that's really what started me on this path that led me to today. But That being said, having had that polarizing experience, being a people person, I kind of tend to project some of that past onto the situation that I had came across this year already, where I was going to have to let people go. And I was remembering the pain that I had.
Yes.
And I didn't want to be that person that gave them that pain. But you know what, Joel, at the end of the day, it's not personal, it's business. And when I told my team what was going on, they were very supportive, actually. They took it a lot better than I thought. You know, I tend to go dark side. And I thought they were going to throw me out a window or I was going to get a brick to the head, and none of that. I mean, it was like, no, we get it.
Well, I'd like to change something you said there. You said it's not personal, it's business. But the reality is, it is personal. It's us as business owners, it's our egos on the line. But at the same time, we're trying to protect our team. And we feel like a failure when we have to let somebody go because we either didn't train them right, we didn't handle the finances right. We're failing ourselves when we have to let somebody go. And so then we struggle with the concept of letting someone go.
Right.
Because that's the ultimate, like, you can't come back. When you tell somebody, hey, I've got to let you go, there's no coming back from that ledge.
Right.
Right? And that's, to me, for me, every time has been the hardest thing in the world. Whether there's somebody who's new to our team and we recognize that they just aren't going to work, or a dear friend of mine that we had to let go who was really struggling, and we continued to support that person after they left or after we let them go. It's always personal, right? I mean, I never get over it. I remember everybody that's worked on my team, and everybody we've interviewed says the same thing. I mean, so for those of you out there who might be employees, I'd encourage you to, boy, have a little grace with your boss. Understand how difficult this is for them. But for those bosses out there, for those owners, have a little grace for yourself. This is not easy, right? I know you struggle tremendously with it. I spent many a sleepless night when I have to let somebody go because I take it that personally. It's that hard on me. I hate letting people go because I put my heart and my soul into every single team member.
Yeah, I think in the moment of truth and getting it done, it was definitely a mindset in the moment of it's for the business, it's for the business, it's for the business. But the days leading up to it and the days afterwards were not awesome.
Yeah.
By any stretch of the imagination. But the company's alive.
Yeah. That's the key, right? When you recognize whether they're a bad fit or it's not working financially, the company is still alive, hopefully, right? When you pull that trigger, for many clients I've dealt with, it's not. They're on death's doorstep, and they're just afraid to admit it. But if you do it the right way, you're going to save yourself emotionally, you're going to save your team members emotionally, you're going to save everybody financially, because you're not having to rob Peter to pay Paul, right? You're not digging yourself into such a deep hole that you can't recover. And I think that was one of the big reliefs for you, is you realized early enough, okay, I can't really go any further, because if I get beyond this point, I'm in serious financial trouble then.
Yeah, every outcome was the same, no matter which way I diced it. I could go in and I could have an open and honest conversation with them and let them know what was going on, or I could roll the dice and gamble with them again for another 2, 3, 4 weeks. But from that financial standpoint, the outcome was going to be the same regardless. So I chose to do it right away, and there we go.
Well, and I like what you said. You had an open and honest conversation with them. I would love to say that I'm the best at those conversations when it comes to letting someone go, but I know I'm not. I'm terrible at it. I go in terrified into the room. I sit down with them. I feel terrible being there, having to let somebody go. And then it's, okay, how do I open up to them so that they know I'm being sincere?
Right.
That I really truly wish we could find a way to make it work, whether it is financial or personality fit or skill set, that we can't get them to a certain level for us. You know, the train's moving too fast for them maybe.
Right.
It's always a struggle because you're trying to let somebody down easy, but the open and honest is the best way, isn't it?
Well, it's the ultimate respect. You know, it's keeping dignity for the both of you. And if you're able to, you know, in my case, deploy a little bit of empathy, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, empathy does go a long way.
Definitely.
So having empathy with your team, having empathy with yourself, you know, what were some of the other great lessons you learned from some of our other interviewees that might have helped your business, other businesses you knew last year?
Burke Moran is somebody I massively look up to now since his interview and getting to spend some time with Burke. You know, his take on culture, and I mean, we had a lot of guests on the show that talked about culture, but at the height of, you know, running my company with people in it, I was always referring back to the lessons that Burke Moran had given in his interview, which was, you know, being intentional about how the culture of your team is, and you know, even a piece of toxicity can spread throughout your entire team. So I took Burke's advice and I made sure that my employees always had a voice with me, that they were involved in ideating and creating for our clients, that they were allowed to talk with our clients and be involved in that conversation. I wanted to make sure that I had a team that felt comfortable, not only with myself and our clients, but comfortable to innovate the process. And allowing your staff to bring ideas that could potentially move your business forward. Because you know, you might be the boss and the head honcho and the big cheese of everything, and you're looking at things from a 25,000 foot level, but your employees might have some ideas that can carry you forward further, faster. And that was definitely the case with my team. I allowed them to innovate within their positions. And, you know, since then they created incredible workflow system that I still use.
Yes.
You know, and communication with clients and that kind of thing, they've innovated there as well. So, you know, a lot of these interviews, I've been able to take bits and pieces of it and just kind of apply them into my own business. And I've seen, because they gave me that information, that it actually works.
Yeah. And for us, culture is such a huge piece here. We do a book club with our team. If you haven't read Patrick Lencioni's books, please read those, especially if you're a business owner. And even having your management teams and your team read them, they have been so key to how we run our business and put everything together. Learning how to have open and honest communication without insulting people, without holding back, to build up team players instead of tearing them down, to seek solutions within your team, right, and get their buy-in, but then to also, when a decision's made, there's no sort of siloing or people tearing down the process just because they disagree with it. You know, and it doesn't just stop because you said it once. It's not a set it and forget it. Culture, to me, my biggest lesson this last year in learning from a Burke or any of the other great folks, Andrew Hurlburt talked about it quite a bit as well, is it's not set it, forget it. Culture is something you have to work on every day.
Absolutely.
Right? It doesn't end. You know, and we see that all the time if our eyes are open, when somebody behaves a certain way and you know, that doesn't match our culture.
Right.
That doesn't match what we do. And it's fun to watch people when you actually stop them and go, hey, is that being open and honest? Or are you just coming to me with a problem, or is there a solution? Because if all you've got is a problem, Abraham Lincoln said it best, if all you're doing is bringing a problem forward, then you're just complaining.
Right.
Right? Come to the table with solutions. Come to the table with how you can work better with your team, right? Instead of having an inward mindset, another great book, have an outward mindset. Maybe somebody's reacting negatively to something because of something happening in their life, right? And a simple question such as, is everything okay? Boy, when we had this conversation, you got very defensive. We need to talk about this, right? Don't walk away and start talking to somebody else. You know, it always makes me laugh because there's a great quote, and I believe it says something to the effect of, the most important conversation is the one you aren't having with the person in the moment.
Boy, that's a big one.
Because we'll walk away and say something to somebody else behind their back, not trying to backstab them, but rather than me just saying, hey, Brad, you reacted pretty harshly to that situation. Why? Instead, I walk around to somebody else and go, boy, did you see what Brad did? That was kind of crazy. Do you know why Brad did that? Well, why would I ask somebody else why you did it instead of just asking you, right?
Exactly.
And so that was a big lesson for us in how to communicate more effectively this year in our team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are some of the things, if I can flip it on you for a second?
Yeah.
What are, same question to you. What are some of the, I mean, we've picked a top 5 and people on the channels know that, you know, what your top 5 was. But, I mean, if there's, what are some things that resonate from the interviews last year that helped with your business?
Well, it was interesting. I get to talk with so many business owners. And I was sitting down with a business owner last night who's a solopreneur. And he has no partners, no employees. And I see this a lot in my world with attorneys. There are a lot of solo attorneys. They might have a secretary or a receptionist, maybe a paralegal, but they're really solopreneurs. And for a lot of people, they don't have a partner even in their business because they make everything about themselves. When we as owners stop making it about ourselves, and this was a big one from Burke, when we make it about a team, a culture we're creating, it's no longer about us. We start giving the keys to the car to the rest of the team, and the team turns and says, I got you, right? Joel, go do your thing. We've got you. We don't need you for this. And all of a sudden it kind of hits you in the face and you start going, wow, this is cool. There's something different being created here when my team's lifting me up versus me always running around trying to lift 16 team members up, right? That's neat, but that's what great culture creates. That's what ownership creates. And in ownership, not in the sense of other people owning your business, but they own their jobs. They own what they do for the team, what they do for you. And not being so closed-minded as an owner to believe that I'm the only one going through it.
Right.
My team gets it too, right? And that's a hard one for a lot of us because we almost want to put ourselves on that lonely mountaintop. You know, like when I hear somebody say being an owner can be lonely, really? Why? It's only lonely because we make it lonely, right? We want to make it something special instead of going, you know, there's a lot of other business owners out there. Maybe I should be talking to them more often.
Right.
You know, maybe I shouldn't be afraid to go call somebody up that I know that their business is bigger than mine and see if they'll talk to me about business, and then maybe give back by calling somebody whose business is smaller than mine and go help them and give back, you know,
Right.
the circle.
That's right. Yep. Nailed it. Absolutely.
And, you know, I know we've got some great folks we're going to be interviewing this year. I know we'll talk about a couple of them we've already done the interviews on. We'll drop those at the end, but that's part of what excites me about this program that we're doing, right?
Absolutely.
You and I were sitting there at the beginning saying, how can we give back?
You know, it's one thing to hold a camera and to be in, you know, the same room with you and your guests, our guests.
Yes.
But I get the value out of each interview, and my hope is that people that listen and or watch any portion of it also get the same thing that I did. And that's really the whole point of it, right? Like you said, I mean, you know, a one-to-one conversation is good and it's great, but if you're trying to affect change on a larger scale, you need to use these tools. It's, you know, the new millennium. It's 2020. You know, that's why we put things out on social media and why we've gone to a podcast and, you know, an audio-only show as well. You know, we're trying to find ways to populate areas where people spend their time. You know, and myself, I'm a podcast audiobook guy. I'm terrible at reading. I hate reading, but I listen to audiobooks. You know, those are a great tool for me. But podcast is something that would speak to me, being able to consume these interviews in an audio world where I can continue to work on what I'm doing, or I can pay attention a little bit more. But either way, that's why we really have done all of this, is because the lessons that all of us learn, and it goes back to mentorship at the very beginning of this episode when we were talking, whether you have somebody or not, these episodes are your mentors. We've got 29 mentors right now that can help any business of any size because they've all been through incredible journeys of their own. Yeah. You know, you talk about a guy like Dean Folkvord right out at the gate with our show that builds a bread empire and sells it and pivots and goes into a completely different industry that he's working on dominating in there as well with his family. You know, that's a really, really great story, but Dean has seen some things along the way that helps a guy like me that's not been in business more than 2 or 3 years. Yeah. You know, and it's, you know, Michelle from Westaff. Yeah. Another great one, somebody that talks about, you know, that fake line of work-life balance, right? She talks about how she is able to kind of make that flexible so that she still has time with her kids and her family, but she can still be intentional about her business. I think that's something that a lot of people need to hear.
Well, and with her, the support of her husband.
Big time, absolutely.
Who is so key to her business, because it's not just in the family, but then he does little things and she recognizes it. To me, was huge is how important our spouses are in our businesses, and for those people who don't utilize their spouses, how much they're missing out. Oh, absolutely. By not having their spouse involved at some level in their business. You bet. Right? I mean, like my business, my team doesn't know at all how much my wife is involved in the business. Zero knowledge to that. But my wife is my sounding board. My wife is what gives me balance in what I get to do. Right. Right? And then go to somebody like a Max Pigman. Right? Here's a guy who's been a temporary CEO of a very large corporation, then pivots from Realtor.com over to a brewery that he's been running for years, and then just, well, it feels like it was overnight that he exploded with Lewis and Clark. It wasn't. This was a long time coming. Exactly. Right? Max was planning this for years, and how he strategized it and the way he works. To then, let's take, you know, the guys at Gulch Distillers, right? Love that one. Those guys were, that was an amazing interview. There's a perfect one on partnership. How do two people work together, not turn every little thing into a pissing match, and have fun while they're doing it? Because those guys love what they do. Yeah, and it shows. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, to that point, and even stepping out even higher on it, is no matter where you as a viewer are in your entrepreneurial journey,
we have 29 mentors to give you right now. And
Absolutely.
there's mentors there that are in a position that either you're trying to get to or that you aspire to, maybe the goals that you've set, maybe you are trying to build a huge company. Maybe a Dean Fulford interview would definitely help you. You know, maybe you're, I don't want to say too much about our future guests, but the ones that are coming up are so incredible, and I can't wait to show you. But take these interviews and take something out of each one of them, and let them, let those lessons seep into your bones, and refer back to them when you need them the most. And that's definitely what I've been able to do, and I know it would work for other people. So, and I think that speaks to the why of what we're doing.
Yeah.
I got a little ahead of us there, sorry. I'm like, oh, nope. I almost dropped some names.
That's okay, because I think we're probably going to drop that name anyways, because that's going to be our first interview that we're releasing.
I guess, yeah. Does ours come up before his?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Because we're going to have this one go, and then...
and then we drop him.
Yep, and then we're going to, going to mic drop. The first actual interview is... Now let's not let them know yet.
All right. Okay. Good. We'll wait till
we got a few more minutes. We're just
good call. Good call.
Yeah. We are going to be interviewing both the Bozeman Chamber of Commerce, the Helena Chamber of Commerce. We've got some other great interviews that are coming that we're lining up. I mean, one of the amazing things I got to say that I've learned about these interviews is, and I'm going to throw this one, people's generosity, right? Our people, our interviewees are giving their time to us, and to you, as the viewers, the listeners. They aren't getting paid for this. We don't have a budget. This is you and I eating this cost to make this happen, right? Silverman Law Office, SocialFlixx are bearing 100% of the cost for this.
Right.
So for them, it's a huge deal, right? It's their time away from their team to give back a little bit. And I think that's so important to thank everybody who has given their time, everybody who will be giving their time. More than that, though, I think it goes to show our business communities how much they're willing to give back to help other businesses, to help people in their communities. That to me is pretty special.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just to see first of all, the level of authenticity and vulnerability with a lot of them, with the stories that they're telling us. They're being generous with their time. They're being generous with their knowledge, and I think it's a great gift that they are giving people as well. And I just feel like I feel blessed to be a vehicle in that scenario for sure.
Well, and I'm going to throw a little story on Dean Fulford. He may not like me telling this one, but I thought it was pretty awesome. It says a lot about the man. So Dean did not want to do that interview last year, really did not want to do it. And I didn't understand why. And it was because he personally didn't feel like he had a lot to give, right? He was humble enough to say, why would you really want me? And I had to keep poking and prodding at Dean. And he finally gave in. And afterwards, he said to me, Joel, thank you for not giving up on me. I enjoyed the heck out of that. I really hope people get something out of it. I don't know that they will. I don't want to call it self-deprecation, right? But him still not believing he had a lot to give because he is a very humble man, as I got to learn.
Right.
I thought that was just awesome, but I heard that over and over from the people that we got to interview, as they were just shocked that they would have something really to give. And they were also shocked, by the way, that an hour interview could go by so fast. Literally to a T, almost every one of them went, whoa, that was really an hour?
Right.
Caroline Rose, she had to cut hers short because she had cows being delivered.
Right.
But hers went boom, like that. And what a great story she had. it just amazed me, all these stories that we were able to get over and over again of just wonderful business owners willing to give back, to share.
Oh, absolutely, and you're 100% right. I think when you're in it, and you, year by year, you're just in the thick of growing the business, working through things, you probably don't see it as valuable to somebody who needs to learn from it. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but to see that light go off in their eyes, where like, oh, actually, maybe this would help somebody. Thank you for helping me, bring this out to the world. I think that's a really neat thing.
Well, and I'm going to throw this out here, if you'd like to be interviewed, please give us a call at Silverman Law Office. We'd love to get you in. No business, too big, too small. Everybody's got something to learn from, is my feeling in this. And we're getting some bigger names this year. Overall, we're also getting some very small businesses too. We had the young kid, what was his name? The ice cream kid last year. John?
Yep.
John was
Settle.
a great, John Settle was a great interview. Here's a kid at the age of 15, couldn't even drive yet, and he'd started an ice cream business, selling, having an ice cream truck.
Right.
Going old school, just to show you, Main Street businesses aren't dead. If you can go back to an ice cream truck and make it successful, you got to be kidding me, right?
Definitely.
That's something different. But there's always an interesting story there. We always have something to share. So I would highly encourage everybody, if you're a business owner, give us a call. We'd love to come interview you, get you out there a little bit as a thank you for being part of this process.
Definitely.
And maybe now's the time to let them know who the next interview is as we wrap up.
Take it away.
All right. Well, give a big shout out to Greg Gianforte, who sat down for about 45 minutes with us. I believe the interview is going to be about half an hour. An amazing business interview. There were no politics discussed. This was 100% business. He and his wife, Susan, are unbelievable people. I would love to get back and interview both Greg and Susan, or even just Susan, because she was such a huge instrumental part in his business, or in their business. Right now, technologies that just exploded in Bozeman before they sold it to Oracle. That, I think, is an amazing way to kick off 2020.
Oh yeah, if you can't, listen, I know that there's political lines and all that BS. We don't cross those here. This is the Montana Business Vlog. This is the Montana Business Podcast. For a reason, business. And getting to learn from a man that not only grew a large company, but has been entrepreneurial his entire life, and we dive into that story. And I'm not going to give you any more teasers, but I am going to say that whether you're new to business or you've been in business for 50 years, Greg's got something for everybody, and I'm really excited to bring it to the world.
Yeah.
You guys did an amazing job in that interview.
I mean, he starts from startups to employees to ownership ego, culture, exiting, wow. In such a short time frame to pack in that much information was truly special to me. I felt really, truly blessed to get his time like that, with as busy as he and his wife are, running back and forth in Congress. He's running for governor. It was amazing to me to get to sit down and interview somebody with that kind of experience.
Definitely. Yep.
So, well, all right, everybody. Want to thank you all for joining us today. Brad, thank you.
Thank you. Seriously.
Always, everybody, you can catch us on YouTube, Silverman Law Office, the Montana Business Vlog. You can catch us on all the social media avenues. Brad's dropping snippets of our interviews. Then Brad's also getting us out there on podcasts all over the place. You name it, iTunes I can't remember all the names. Yeah.
Yep.
Brad knows that stuff. I don't. That's his world.
That's all good.
But I love listening to podcasts. I only have one place to get them for me personally is iTunes. So
nice. Same here.
I'm an idiot.
Nope. I prefer iTunes.
But really, Brad, thank you, SocialFlixx, Silverman Law Office, RC3. Thank you as our sponsors who allow us to cover the cost to put this on. It's not cheap, but we sure enjoy the heck out of it. So folks, next time, hope to see you here. And Greg Gianforte is our first one we're dropping for 2020, so don't miss it. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Nice.